Welcome to Deep Dive. This is another episode where we dive into the things that Pastor preached on Sunday. And this past Sunday, he preached a message called I'm an Overcomer Too, or You're an Overcomer Too. And but this week, I didn't post it yet. Really, I was just worn out and was just thinking about some things on top of that. And really the past 2-3 weeks been thinking. So today, because I didn't even talk to Dad about it, but it went along with Wednesday. So I was like, man, it's the perfect time. I want to just throw a curveball. And today, instead of really going deeper into the message, which the live is still on there. So you can go to our YouTube, you can go to our live tabs and you can watch it. It's the full service, but you can skip to the message portion. But today, I really wanted to just talk about what is church. So we spend a lot of time here. We have vision, we have all this stuff. But just starting off, what is church?
You know, when you think of church, you say a group of people who assemble themselves of like faith. So we say that the biblical, that you come together, assemble themselves of like faith. But for me, it should be a group of people who God has transformed from the inside out, and they want to learn how to love each other through Christ, so that we have a safe haven for people who are hurting, downtrodden, broken, and they can come in and be lifted up because remember, we were one of them before God transformed our lives. And for some reason, we missed that. Versus coming into church and start throwing rocks and stones at them, we need to go out there and find them where they are and bring them in here to listen and see how God loves you through whatever you're going through. That's what church should be.
I agree. What is the role of a church to its community? So not to necessarily just members, but what do you think a church's role is to its community as an overall?
I think overall, it's being a loving agent. I mean, you have to love people where they are. And we just don't do that. I mean, it goes back to the theme we talk about. I mean, even tonight we're talking about shepherding, all the different things, and what's that really look like? What's that feel like? What does it mean to come along people and help them navigate through the difficulties of life? Because life can get really difficult. And yes, a lot of it because we put it on ourselves, but that's not when we need to pick up the rocks and throw at them. That's when we need to get along beside them and show them how. Come over here and eat what I'm eating. Sit down with me. Spend some time. It's like today we learned something. Do you call people when they're in situations, or do you say it's not my problem? Yeah. And most people who are supposed to be a part of the church should be calling, loving, and caring, encouraging. What do we say? That's not my issue. That's not my problem.
Yeah, Mama had brought up discernment when you was talking about it, and that is a tough one because it is, you see in the Bible, some people get multiple chances. Some people ask God to follow. He tells them what it is. They put their head down, walk away. You don't hear him chasing him. So you don't hear him chasing them and all that. But then you get all the shepherding talk of leaving the 99 for the one. But then Jesus had his 3 main ones. He had 12, but there was 3 he always really poured into. So really it's just like balancing. I'm not chasing you so much that the people that want it, I'm not feeding them enough. But at the same time, I'm not ignoring you because you have the potential to turn into something if nurtured or shepherded, to stay with the word we've been using. So kind of how do you gauge and manage to make sure your Peter, James, and Johns is getting what they need, but you're still not forgetting about the one that walked away?
I think you have to have the mindset of the Good Samaritan. But most of us, when you say the church, most of the church folk have the mindset of the priest and the Levite. It's not my issue. I'm going to ignore it. They looked at it and they saw it and said, I can't help them, and they move on. Most of the church people have the mindset of the disciple when he was ready to feed the 5,000. That's the problem. It's the mindset. It has to be changed. And how is it changed? It's changed through a transformative life. The same love, the same grace, the same mercy, the same compassion. If you down on your luck and you on the side of the road, you don't want somebody to come and just look at you and then ignore and keep on going. Not once, but twice it happened. And then the Good Samaritan comes by. So what was different with the Good Samaritan? He had, his heart. He had the heart transplant. And that's the problem. The discernment comes in that you meet people where they are. And if you do it the right way, you will just know. Like I said, he went, picked him up, carried him to an inn. Look at all the stuff he had to do. Yeah. And then said, and nurtured him to health and said, here's what I need. I'm going to give you this. And if you run out, I'll be back next week to pay the debt. I mean, it's just follow through. It's checking in and checking out on people, just figuring out, what do you really need? And we talked about that takes time. That takes conversation. That takes fellowship. I mean, that's what it means in really connecting with each other.
Yeah. Me and Dwight was talking yesterday, and one of the things that you learn is like in different institutions, you got standards. And he said one of his head coaches, whenever he was coaching at Eastern, had told him, one of our biggest problems is we treat standards like goals. Goals change, but you can change your goal immediately. Even if you're doing good, I was trying to get 1,000, but I'm on pace to get 1,200, so now my goals change. But the standard of coming in at 5 a.m., getting your workout in, going to watch film, then going to class, that don't change. And it's how do we get the standard? How do you set a standard in church where you're holding people accountable? Because it's easy to say, we got the Bible, you know what the standard is. But if we're gonna live in reality, a lot of the people just ain't reading their Bibles. How do you set a standard where there is accountability, and when you fall short, we're picking you up, but there's accountability, there's something there? How can you do that so you could see more of what we want? Because one of the sickening things is you just get tired of just seeing people come and not do nothing. I truly don't understand. And don't hear me wrong. You just fresh off the street, coming in. Yes, there's a time where you do need to just sit, learn, figure out, who is this Jesus guy? Oh, he really loves me like this? All right, bet. Yes, there is that time. But then, you've been here your whole life. You've been here 15. When is it going to boil up to start doing stuff? And that has to be a standard. And they're not just doing stuff to do stuff, but we all got gifts. What made the Church of Acts so well? They brought everything they had. Okay, so you know more about administrative stuff. I know more about the food stuff. You know more about the feed, like whatever ministry part it is, you know something about it. And we lacking it because you ain't locked in with us. And it's just, so how can we kind of cultivate, develop, hold people accountable in a way that isn't, I don't even know what that's,
I think because you're when you're searching like that, and you through your youthfulness and certain things, as I had to do that, God lead the way. So what does that look like? Tonight we talked about it, being humble and firm. Jesus had the power. We learned yesterday he could have just came in and done it, but look what he would do. He always put the people in position to show them that, okay, now you need me. You're not where you thought you were. Because as soon as I told you we got to feed these people, look what y'all said. Then I told you go over here and get this. So you can, firmness and discipline goes over so much better from the humbleness. And that's the struggle, because we have not always done it from a humble position. And sometimes I've missed that in my career, in my life, pastoring, coaching, athletic director, whatever it was, because you have to lead with humbleness in order for them to feel the firm discipline. Because you can hold them accountable to it and through humbleness. This is why we do it this is why. This is the biblical way of doing this. And if you can't do it this way, then it's not ready. It's not ready for you to move. But that needs to be done in true humbleness. And that's a tough piece when you really think about it, because we think we humble, we think, but I mean, we get tired, that's why he said, don't grow weary in doing good. I mean, there's so many things that all you do. Look what Moses did. I didn't tell you to do. Jethro had to tell Moses, come on, you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
So it's laced in there. And I think sometimes we make it complicated, but it's really that simple, D, that Christ has already done it. You don't have to be Christ again. And we sometimes try to be their savior. No, you're not their savior. You are their friend that's come along because Christ has changed you from the inside out. And and I love that word, you're going to come along them. And when you come along somebody, you're not coming along folk you don't know. You coming along folk you done invested in, and then you can help them. No, let me show you a better way. And you're talking through them to, oh wow, okay, I got you.
Yeah. I guess more personally for me, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I don't try to be Jesus for no one. I'm more, but it's still just as dangerous because I don't want to deal with you. Like the moment you're not all in, I don't want to deal with you. But the question is, how do you get out of that side? Because you just talked about how to get out of remembering that Jesus already done it. So that's cool when you're on that spectrum, when you're worrying yourself out trying to do stuff for folks. But now you on the other end where you looking at folks, you're like, dog, it's this simple. Be consistent in X, Y, Z. Do this with me, and we can go. And then if we're not, then it's like, okay, so what are we doing?
I answer. It's the same way that when what made Peter thought he was stronger than what he was? What made Peter think that he was ready to go with Christ and said, I'll even go down to hell with you as long as you're going to bring me out. And yet Christ said, no, you're not. You're going to deny me 3 times. There ain't no way. So what as you're going through, it's called life. Because as we're going through, like, man, I thought I was somewhere, man, and I slipped up. I didn't do whatever the issue, whatever thing is. So then life keeps happening to you. And as it's happening to you, it makes you more humble, more compassionate, it just does. The older you get, you're like, oh, because, like you said, I've been doing this for 42 years. So sometimes I want to think, but dang, in those 42 years, look how many things I messed up on. Look at things I did. And so when you reflect back, you're like, wow, God was with me the whole time. The same thing that Mary and Martha. That's always been one of my powerful stories because what Mary and Martha both loved him, both were close to Jesus and Saul, but the difference was Jesus said, well, Mary, you've always picked the good part. And the good part was what? Taking the time to sit down anytime Jesus was around and sit at his feet to glean. Now that didn't mean that Martha didn't take some time, but Martha was over here doing stuff that didn't really matter. And then she got upset because Mary didn't help her clean the house. Mary didn't help her cook the biscuits, or whatever the situation may be. Because sometimes I got to be careful in that I'm getting bent out of shape because I want to happen, but that don't mean nothing to Christ. The piece that I got bent out of shape about, okay, he just smiled and said, yeah, young man, I could get bent out of shape because what was important to me, you ignored. You said it wasn't important to you. You had a priest mindset. You had a Levi mindset. And I got to be careful not having that because what made them just look, they saw me, and just went on. It ain't my business. And to have then what made the Good Samaritan, when you just really look at it. And it has to be a transformed life of what we've all been through. You know, what makes you a Good Samaritan versus thinking that, oh, that'll never happen to me. I'll never get in that situation. I'll never need a handout. I'll never need nobody to help me. And then life hits you. The plant shuts down. You lose your job. And now you are high on your horse. And now you're in this situation. And now you have to humble yourself to go ask for a piece of bread, for a bottle of water, which you've always looked down on folk who did that. That's called life. You never know what situation you're going to fall into. And so what I've had to learn is that he's the God of prosperity and the God of few. Guess what? I've learned that no matter what state, when Paul said, all the things that you learn, When I say Psalms 37:25, what I keep saying, I've been young and I've been old. And I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor the seed begging bread. And you be like, wow, if you keep living long enough, the ebb and flows of life gonna come around. And the problem that, as I said tonight, is churches for the lack of knowledge. Because if you don't have the knowledge, you can become ignorant to some stuff. And so they put shepherding all on the pastor and a few people in the church, which we learned tonight, everybody should be shepherding. Everybody should be making phone. Everybody should be connected to somebody. If they don't, and Gabe said, if they don't, give them a couple of Sundays. If they just think about that, if they didn't show up, if you heard and you learned, somebody that you knew you were close to went through a traumatic experience, something happened, they got fired, they lost their job, or they was in a car, why do we not feel compelled to call to check in on them? That was an eye opener that, like, wow, your small group. That's what he said. Your small group to the big group. Let's master 8 before you try to master 70. And that's how you learn and get there. If you can get close and connect to those 8, then I get these 8, now I got 42 people at one time. Think about that. And the church was moving and going, 42 people out of 70 to 80 folk. That's when we have an age of 100 folk, and half of the church was coming to Bible study. Mm-hmm. And then the ebb and flows of life, summer hits, everything starts becoming more important to them. They give so much of their life to the world that they too tired to give an hour or two to God on Sunday and an hour or two to God on Wednesdays. And that's in a nutshell. So how do we come along and encourage them? And not get upset, not get mad, but encourage them and say, well, I understand that you're going, but this is where you draw your strength. This is what church, as you asked me at the beginning, what does church really look like? Where people are growing, encouraging, loving each other because of what God has done in our lives.
Do you think about the role church played in the community back in the day? You can think of the olden days. They provided so much. And then as we became more affluent, people don't feel like they need it no more. And that's when you've seen church isn't as big, and it still is. People don't know about all the stuff that really goes down. Like every 1 week, not 1 week a month. The ministry is at a month, every 3 months or something. And then like mama's on the phone for like 2 hours every work, and she really is on it more than that, but that's the scheduled time, doing a resource ministry, helping people pay bills. And not just that, but then they have a class at every 6 months where they try to teach you principles so you're not in those same situations. So there still is a lot being done. But with that being true, we're not doing nowhere near as much as what the church used to do. Do you think there's a way people can get back to being that useful, or we just ain't going to be there until our life makes us need each other again?
You just know it. You just said it. Life gonna make it. That's what happened. It was life. It was the pillar in the community because they wasn't prosperous and had so much, so they depended. And we still see factions of it. That's like you said. You still see factions of, they call on the church through death, through this, and look at the church, and it's there. But because they, at that time, it fed you. It's where you got your school. It was just so many things that went on. It was a beacon. It was a pillar for the community. But then when we became prosperous, more educated, all these different things, but guess what? You see pockets that are starting to come back, and the church is vibrant again in communities.
I know it's always just interesting to me because just keep starting with the end in mind. When I ask you what church is, you're talking about people coming together. And then nowadays you got people that criticize the church so much, saying it's not this, it's not that. Well, who's supposed to be doing it? As you just see it, everyone, they get more. Instead of pouring into what helped get grandma here to raise them, and now they got of age and they got a good job, and now they not coming back, and it's just like, the church is us. It's not this building. This building doesn't magically just make money and be able to do stuff. It's the people coming together, seeing that we have gaps. Really, the organized church, because when you just talk about church and Acts and all this type of stuff, they was just meeting at people's homes. It's when you're coming together. Why do you need organized church though? Because the systems, we talk about all the holes in society, miseducation, food not being enough, all these ministries, you have a church because it's easy to organize that stuff. When you don't have the people, you can't organize that stuff. When you don't got the resources, you can't organize that stuff. And it's harder to do it as an individual versus doing it together. If we know we got this, that church has this, that church has this, or your church is big enough and you got enough people that are serving, where this group can take this and this group can take this, you can actually be of use. But when everyone's just looking, pointing fingers, why don't we got this, why don't we got this, but nobody wants to do anything. So I just always think that's just interesting, because people talk about church so crazy, and it's just, I don't even know what the church is. Come spend time and see, and you'll understand the benefit of it and what it really could be if we all really invested our time and energy into making it what it once was and taking it past that to what it needs to be for us moving forward.
Well, I think it's a great way to end. What you asked me, sometimes just give them the word. We try to look what it reads. Acts 2, 40 through 47, one of my favorite. And with many other words, he testified and exhorted them, saying, be saved from this perverse generation. Then those who gladly received his word were baptized, and that day about 3,000 souls were added to them. And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, in the breaking of bread and in prayers. Then fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done through the apostles. Now all who believed were together and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods and divided them among all, as any one had need. So continually with one accord in the temple, breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily to those who were being saved. Mm-hmm. That's the church. The vital church growth, however we want to say it. How do we do? How do we all get on one accord and God gets all the glory? I got it and you got it. You got it and I got it. And that settles it.
Yeah. Pastor, we said it in a leadership meeting yesterday. Such a low bar to say give 10%. Give everything you got.
Give everything you got.
You should be giving everything you got. So that was your last words?
That's your last words.
It's another episode of Deep Dive. I pray if you don't have a church, you find a church. If you're around Harrodsburg, Kentucky, Centennial Baptist Church is where we're at. We'd love to have you. We'd love to be able to grow with you. But just find you a church, man. There's so much good, but it's only good whenever you decide you want to be a part of it and not just take, but you're willing to give to it as well. We love you, and we'll see you soon.
Amen.